More than kimchi. What will decorate your dinner table today? A hearty dish where you can taste various ingredients. Today's dish is 두루치기. A beautiful dish with beef, vegetables, mushrooms, and garnish. How about presenting it to the family or to a special guest? Garnish aesthetics of Korean food. What ingredients are used for garnish? 5 ingredients that combine natural colors in food. Find out on Korean Food Story. 두루치기. Shall we learn how to make it?
안녕하세요. Hi everyone, I'm Chongjang. Welcome to More Than Kimchi, where you can experience the pleasure of Korean cuisine. Today we are going to learn how to prepare a dish called 두루치기, a hot pot dish traditionally from the southern Jeolla province. Duru literally means all around, which implies you may use any local produce that suits your taste. Shall we now welcome our cooking instructor, Mrs. 한봉영. 선생님 안녕하세요. 오늘 잘 부탁드리겠습니다. We are also glad to have Sarah Henopel with us as our guest. Hello, Sarah.
Hi.
Thanks for coming.
My pleasure. This is a brand new dish for me.
Yes, that's right.
I've never heard of it, so I'm looking forward to making it.
Great. 두루치기 has many different ingredients that complement each other. Shall we take a look at the ingredients before we start cooking? Here I have ground beef and stripes, which is called Chőnyop in Korean. It's a part of cattle stomach. And I have Pyogo 버섯, which is shiitake mushroom. And then soybean sprout. Soybean sprout is a little different from the regular bean sprout. It's from soybeans. And this is Koreans love 콩나물, which is soybean sprout. And this is very unusual ingredients, which is called Pakkoji, which is the inner part of gourd, which you've probably seen a deeper in Korea.
That's right.
Yes,
yeah.
it's the inner part of a gourd, which is dried.
I never knew you could eat that.
So that's very reasonable ingredient. So you get to taste later. And I have a mu, which is radish, pechu, Chinese cabbage, and green onions. So those are the vegetables we are using. And for spice, we have salt and soy sauce, which is different from regular soy sauce. It's called Chongjang, which is a traditional Korean soy sauce. The color is lighter than regular soy sauce, so it's Chongjang. We have chopped onions, chopped garlic, sesame seeds, sesame oil, black pepper, and later to thicken the broth, we have cornstarch here. And this dish has a very nice garnish on top. So for garnish, I have eggs, and these are stripes of dried red pepper, and I have pine nuts and gingko nuts and dried stone mushrooms.
Yes.
So those are the garnish. So shall we start now?
네. 우선 그 고기 종류를 손질을 하겠습니다.
Yeah. First, we'll start with the meat. So these are ground beef that you can purchase. And this, as I introduced, it's called Chőnyop, which is a tripe. Tripe,
Yeah,
right.
we call it tripe.
Yeah, and this is a real, delicacy in Korea. It's a very
And
nice.
it's a delicacy in the West
Is
as
that
well.
right?
Not very common, but it is a delicacy.
Yeah, and Koreans do love this very much. How shall we start this now?
네, 손질을 하는데요.
Yes.
여기 이렇게 이제 찢어내면 됩니다.
So you rip first.
it apart.
Yes.
예, 내장이니까 냄새가 나니까 이제
Yeah,
소금을
that's
좀
right.
We're going to add a
주시겠어요?
little salt, aren't
Right. And the reason is, this is part of the stomach and you like to get rid of certain smell with the meat. So you always use salt. Then the purpose is to get rid of certain smell that
Okay,
has.
to eliminate the odor
Yes,
of
that's right.
주물러가지고 씻거든요. 지금 씻어놓은 것이
So it's important to do that before you wash. That way you want to get rid of those unpleasant smells. After you do that, you're washing it. And this is the one we already washed.
손질이 돼 있습니다. 네.
So shall we
예.
pass some to Sarah so
Yeah.
perhaps she can slice
Sure.
too?
Yeah.
And we need to slice this Chőnyop.
그래서 좀 질기기 때문에 좀 이렇게 칼끝을 넣어서
And this is kind of tough meat than regular, beef meat. So should we use it with the edge?
on the edge.
Right.
And so we're
Doing this, you want to tenderize a little bit.
okay.
Okay.
그래서 이렇게 말아서
And then you roll them before you
채를
slice.
To roll it up?
썰어주세요.
Oh, isn't
And then
this
cut
interesting?
into strips.
And just, I suppose, narrow or thin
Yeah,
strips.
that's
Is that
about a 1
right?
centimeter wide,
Okay.
half inches wide.
That's easy to do. Very interesting
Yeah.
texture of
It
this
is,
tripe.
yes.
Okay.
So we'll put it over here.
Add this in as well.
Yeah.
There we
So
go.
this is Chőnyop
네.
that we already sliced.
표고버섯이 여기 있거든요. 요 표고버섯의 기둥을
Yeah.
떼고 채를
So
썰어주시면
next we are, preparing is the 표고버섯. This is the dried forms you already soaked in water. So
Okay.
cut out the stem.
You want to cut off the
Right.
stem. We've used these before. This is
Yeah.
very common
Yeah,
in
that's right.
Korean cooking, I believe.
Definitely, especially when you cook beef. 표고버섯 is almost always we add.
I
Gives a nice
love these
extra
kind of
flavor.
mushrooms.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you will slice them, then put here.
They're so much more interesting than
Yeah.
our button mushrooms
That
that we
definitely
have.
has a nice texture and nice flavor.
여기 양념을 할 거거든요.
Yeah.
그래서 청장을 넣고
So we are making seasonings.
So about 1 or 2
Tablespoon
tablespoons
of the
Okay.
Chongjang.
그다음 파 마늘이요.
Then chopped onions,
Another
마늘
tablespoon
좀
or so.
주시겠어요? 예,
and then
마늘,
chopped garlic,
갈릭, 예, 그다음에
then sesame oil,
후추, 예, 후추,
and
And a
black
little
pepper.
다 주시죠.
And then sesame seeds.
Do those sesame seeds have to be toasted before?
Yes, and here actually we say in Korean 깨소금, which literally means sesame salt. The reason is after you roast, you sort of pound it with salt, adds a little bit of salt flavor there. So in Korean it's 깨소금, which is
Okay.
sesame salt.
All right.
But you could call it sesame seeds. So sometimes you can use the whole sesame seeds or one like this little bit.
Right.
Yeah,
They look
with-
a little ground or a little
real
chopped
ground
up.
with the 소금.
그래서 여기들에다가
네.
이 양념을 나눠서
Yeah.
넣고요.
So the seasoning we made, you just divide into the chonyop, beef, and then
the
표고버섯. We'll do
mushrooms.
it all different.
양념을
Yeah. This
해주세요.
you may
And
mix.
our-
Can I think use
We
your
can use our hands,
or
right?
your chopsticks?
I think that's part of this Mrs. Han's secret
Yes.
is using her hands.
Well, you're getting an expert of Korean cooking.
Yes.
So here we mixed the seasoning with the beef, and Sarah is doing the chonyop, and then here's the 표고버섯. So 3 ingredients are already prepared.
다음에
Yeah.
채소를 손질하겠습니다.
So next step is preparing the vegetables.
무하고 배추 손질을 해줘야 되는데요.
So this is the soybean sprout that we already cleaned and parboiled. The next we're going to do with the mu, which is a Korean radish, and Chinese cabbage, which is called 배추. And I'll give it to you
Okay.
to cut it.
준비하셔서
이걸 어떤 모양으로
네,
자르라
여기
그럴까요?
그 채를 썰어주는데요.
아.
먼저
So for
드리겠고,
radish, you're going to make this kind of shape, nice strips, even size, nice strips.
I think I need a class in just how to cut the strips because it's very different than
Not
Western
easy, but
style
as you
chopping.
get to it, I'm sure it will get easier.
Yeah.
And then Mrs. Han is preparing the 배추, Chinese cabbage. And with this radish that Sarah is preparing and the 배추 that Mrs. Han is preparing, after they cut, what we do is sprinkle a little bit of salt and let it sit for a while. The reason is you just want to add a little bit of salt.
Okay, and that's the only
That's
seasoning
the
for our
reason
vegetables.
for now, we're right.
Now I noticed this radish is very soft, so we've
Yes.
already parboiled it. Is that
Yes,
correct?
yes. No, we are not cooking it. We just sprinkle salt. When you do it, it becomes a little wilted. That's what you want.
Like kimchi.
Yes,
yeah.
yes, definitely.
Okay.
That's the same procedure. So after you do it, maybe let it sit about 30 minutes or so. And after that, you squeeze out the
절여진
extra
것을
liquid.
물기를
Yes.
짜주죠.
So that's what you're doing with the 배추 and also mu here.
저기 접시 좀 하나 주세요.
What can
If
I
you
do?
want to pass one dish
plate?
there.
네.
All right.
So the one that we take out the liquid already is over here.
That's amazing how it
Yeah,
softens
yeah,
up
right.
in a relatively short period of
That's
time.
right. And also it
with the
gives a
salt.
nice flavor. If you want to chew one piece, have a little bit of salt. So next thing we're going to do is a vegetable called pakkoji. This I would like to show, I introduced before as it's a dried gourd, inner part of the gourd. But this one has been soaked overnight. And this is a very rare. I mean, sometimes you probably cannot find in Seoul because this is very, this is famous from that southern Jeolla region.
So when you say gourd, I think of a pumpkin.
Pumpkin shape, or sometimes, the dipper you've seen, we use for water dipper.
Right.
But the inner part also is a vegetable that we really like.
And this must be soaked in order to soften it up.
Right, and it takes about 6 hours, so you can leave overnight, soaking in water. We'll use half and we'll give you half. Shall we mix all the different vegetables
그걸
together?
그냥 다 같이 볶아주세요.
할까요?
네.
예.
볶아서요. 저는 무를 먼저 볶겠습니다.
So Sarah is stir frying over here.
Okay, thank you.
Doing the cabbages on this side, and this is a radish mu. They're all wilted with salt. Squeeze out the liquid, and then you stir fry them with the vegetable oil.
여기다 양념을 조금씩 넣어주세요.
So as you stir fry, we'll put a little bit of green onions
소금 간은 돼 있으니까
and garlic. And remember, we already sprinkled salt, so you don't need to add any salt. Just the rest.
And a little
Sesame seeds.
seed or sesame or salt.
And then, of course, sesame oil.
Smells
국물을 낼 거기 때문에
Yeah.
설탕은 안 들어갔어요.
Yeah. And also, this is a hot pot I mentioned with the liquid, so we do not put any salt, any sugar.
Okay.
So 4 different kind of vegetable we are cooking here. So that's pakkoji.
Pakkoji. We might call this a stir fry,
Yeah.
similar to what I've made before
Right,
at
yeah,
home.
right.
It's done very quickly.
That's right.
Very little oil, which
Very
is
little
nice.
oil.
And I think the vegetables tend to keep their crispness.
That's right, yeah. And there's one more procedure with this dish because it's a hot pot. After you stir fry, you're going to cook with the liquid. In this case, we are going to use water.
Therefore, the stew.
Yes,
Okay.
접시 좀 주시겠어요?
이걸로 할까요,
여기다
선생님?
하죠. 근데 여기는 간장 간을 안 하고 채소의 색깔을 나타내려고
Right,
소금 간을
right.
했습니다.
And one thing that you notice, pakkoji stays, white because we are not using any soy sauce. We are using mainly
I
salt
see.
to keep the
Okay.
color nice.
Right.
제일 먼저
Yeah.
준비했던 그 고기하고
And
chongjang
chongjang.
있었죠?
And then remember those 2 meat that we prepared? Then we're going to cook that first.
고기부터 익혀야 되는 건 국물을 더 맛있게
That's right.
내기 위해서
Yeah. So the
놨습니다.
reason you are cooking the beef and the tripe is you want to enjoy the broth. So you want the flavor of the meat first. So you cook directly on the pan and then add the vegetable later.
I see. So this is going to produce some liquid. Or
Yes,
some
and also
juice.
we're going to add some water for the liquid of the hot pot.
Okay.
그래서 지금 볶아놓은 재료 있었죠? 그거를
Let's pass the vegetable now.
예, 위에다가 그 예쁘게 이렇게
So
보이도록
we have a 1 layer of beef and stripes, and at the top you will put the vegetable.
국물을
Yes.
둬야 되거든요. 잠깐 끓여야 되니까 이때 그 물에다가 고기는 밑에 많으니까
Yeah.
육수가 아니어도 돼요.
Yeah.
그래서 간장을 타가지고 이렇게 간이 맞도록 이렇게
And then
하신
you are
다음에
pouring water and mix just a little bit of soy sauce called Chongjang. Just give a little bit of extra flavor and add it.
예, 구멍을 이렇게 놔둔 거는 끓을 때 이렇게 넘치지 않게 하느라고.
And notice there's a hole at the center. That way, as it boils, as you cook, the nice broth will go over to the vegetable side.
이렇게
Looks
해서
very
예,
nice.
끓도록 준비를 해놓고요.
Yes.
다음에 우리가 더 예쁘게 하기 위해서 고명 준비를
Right.
하겠습니다.
So this we have to wait for a while until it boils and cook it. So while we're waiting, I introduced before a garnish. This dish has a particularly nice garnish at the top.
채를 위에다 올릴 거를
So you will cut the
준비하겠습니다.
strips of.
Very thin or a little on
yeah.
the thick side?
I think it's thinner is better since we have
선생님은
other ones.
she's-
Yes.
She's rolling. Shall I roll mine?
That will be easier. That will be easy
shortcut.
for you.
Yeah.
That's right.
And then
Then
this
just
way, huh?
slice, yeah. Slightly
Okay.
thinner.
thinner.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a good way of cutting egg strips.
Love. I've
Yes.
never thought of rolling before.
And sogibasot I introduced before, it's for the black color, not only the nutty flavor. You soak it in hot water, you clean
Right.
very carefully. Same way, you roll it and then slice it. I'll
Okay.
let you do one to practice. So here we have pine nuts, gingko nuts, and then sogibasot, stone mushrooms.
그다음에 은행은
Yeah.
이렇게 기름을 둘러고 볶아서
right.
껍질을
And
벗긴
this is
거죠.
the way you would buy to at a store. Gingko nuts. And what you do is you stir fry with a little bit of oil. Then you can get rid of the skin. And turns out to be like so. This just stir fried a little bit on a pan.
Okay, so by stir frying, the skin will come off very
Yes,
easily.
Yes, yes.
녹말을
Yeah.
물에 같은
Right.
양으로 좀
The
타서
ratio is 1:1, water and the starch powder.
And we're going to mix it up first, of course, always before
Yes.
we.
이렇게 해가지고 약간 윤기가 나게
Yes.
이렇게
So
해서
that gives a very nice sort of a shiny look, glazed look to the dish.
I wondered how they did that. Now we know. Smells wonderful
very
from here.
nice, yeah.
너무 많이 부으면은 많이 넣으면 이게
Yeah.
걸쭉해서
Yeah,
국물이
yeah, right.
탁하게 되죠.
And you don't want to put too much starch because you want to enjoy the liquid too. And you know, today it looks very mild. Today's dish is not hot or spicy at all. But if you want to enjoy some hot flavor, you can also add gochujang,
The red pepper
paste.
Right.
Yes, that would be a nice way
So
of
we would serve
enjoying.
that on the side.
Or
If
you
somebody
can just
wanted to add
you
that.
know use it as you make the seasoning and add it. So that way you can enjoy the hot flavor.
예, 이제 파는
Now it's the garnish. At the last step, you will add the green onion to
Okay.
keep that green color.
예, 사이에 이렇게 집어넣어도 되겠습니다.
Right. So
이렇게
couple
하시고
different way of arranging it.
이
The rest of the
공용
garnish.
준비한 거를
Yes.
이렇게 넣죠.
Yeah. Looks very nice.
Oh, it does. And the
Yeah.
garnish, as always, adds
Yes.
color, but it also adds nutrition.
Uh-huh.
네, 이렇게 해서
And then
넣으시고요.
With the
그다음에 실고추,
red
붉은
pepper
색깔.
threads, which is called the shilgochu. And then gingko nuts.
예, 그다음에 그냥 자연스럽게
Yeah.
놔주세요.
Looks very nice.
It forms a wreath,
Yes,
as we would
pretty.
say. Yeah.
And then
Very
pine
nice.
nuts.
이렇게 해가지고
That's very
바로
nice.
So we keep that boiling.
Yes, yeah.
For a
and then
while.
we'll finish at our table as we taste.
예, 이렇게 해서 이제 테이블에
Yeah,
가져가서
yeah.
덜어서 먹는 거죠. 아주
That's
맛이
great. Looks very nice.
Yes.
So that's 두루치기 that we made today. How do you like today's recipe?
I'm looking forward to trying
Looks
it.
very nice, isn't
Yes,
it?
yes.
So now it's time for us to review our procedure for you.
The beauty of Korean food lies in the garnish. It is the last step in preparing a dish, and the purpose is to decorate the dish into an appetizing one. Common ingredients are mushrooms, vegetables, eggs, and peppers. The pepper was first introduced in Korea during the Joseon dynasty in 1592. It is an ingredient that cannot be left out of Korean food. Peppers are used for seasoning in kimchi or making gochujang, a pepper paste, but they are also appropriate for garnishing. Placing red peppers on top of food highlights the dish and makes it look better. Peppers are dried and cut thinly for thread pepper. Red peppers can be thinly sliced, but in general, they are store-bought since it is hard to cut into thread-like slices. Another red garnish is jujubes. When jujubes ripen, they dry and wither. The seeds are taken out and thinly sliced like pepper. jujubes are not hot, so those who prefer the taste of jujubes use them in place of peppers. Another ingredient for garnish is mushrooms. Mushrooms have a nice taste and aroma. They're also high in nutrition, so they are used as a main ingredient, but they are also used for garnish. There are many varieties, but in general, dark color mushrooms like Pyogo and Sogi mushrooms are used most. Sogi mushrooms must be soaked in water and dried. They must be cut carefully to maintain their shape. Pyogo mushrooms and Sogi mushrooms are thin sliced for noodles or soup, but Pyogo mushrooms can be cut into diamond or rectangular shapes. For a green garnish, zucchini, cucumbers, Korean watercress, and green onions are used. Zucchini and cucumbers are cut into thin slices. Because Korean watercress and green onions are already thin, they are cut into appropriate lengths too, for a fresh look. Vegetable garnish is used for noodles and soup. Korean watercress stems and green onions are sometimes fixed on a skewer and fried with flour and eggs before cutting and using as garnish. In the fall, Korean pine trees grow large pine cones. The seed is the pine nut, and it is the fruit of the pine tree. Pine nuts are high in fat but nutritious. Just looking at the fruit with its hard shell makes it hard to imagine the savory taste of the yellow pine nuts. Pine nuts are generally used in soups. Eggs are the most common ingredient for garnish. The yolk and egg white are separated and thinly fried in a rectangular pan. When slicing, it is rolled. Generally, they are sliced into thin slices to make food look better with the yellow and white color. Eggs garnish noodles, soups, and many other dishes. Garnish uses the basic 5 colors: white, yellow, red, black, and green. These are called the 5 aesthetics of garnish in Korean cooking. The taste of Korean food comes from the hand, and the beauty comes from the shapes and colors of garnish.
I hope you enjoy the story of garnish. For 두루치기 and other dishes as well, garnish is an important part of Korean cooking. Let's start. This is 두루치기 here we made. Smells wonderful.
And it's so colorful.
Yes.
And I understand that this is a regional dish.
Yes, yes.
And it's from Chola, correct?
Southern Chola province.
Southern Chola
Yes.
province. I had the opportunity to travel there, and it really is a beautiful area. And I do recommend to our viewers out there, go visit it.
Yeah.
We enjoyed the mountains, we enjoyed the sea, and we enjoyed the scenery, the agriculture fields.
Yes, yes.
There's so much produce that's
Yes,
grown down there.
right.
It's beautiful.
You know, Jeollado is famous for its variety of the produce that they grow there, and also the sort of elaborate dishes they make. So Jeollado is famous for the food and also the things they grow there. So this is a very typical one from Jeollado, that you have a lot of different ingredients together you get to enjoy.
So they utilize the local produce, as we say.
Yes, sure. And the typical thing with this dish is, of course, the Pakkoji that comes from that region.
Okay.
듭시다.
Okay,
Yes.
now I guess we'll use our spoon.
Yes.
Because it is, in fact, liquid, a stew.
Yes. So you start with the liquid. Very good. And you know, this is a special dish for Chongjang out of stone, so it keeps the food really hot. You get to enjoy that for a long time.
Very interesting. The meat and the vegetables really complement each
Yes.
other quite a bit.
And that's why it's 두루치기.
And it has sort of this robust flavor, but a very smooth texture. And as you
Right.
mentioned, it's not spicy. And
It's not spicy.
That's
Yeah.
nice for many foreigners who are a
Yeah.
little apprehensive
That's
about the
right.
hot pepper.
Yeah, right.
But as you mentioned, we can add it if we
Right,
choose to.
Yeah. And I understand these days, of course, this is a traditional dish from Cholla province, and these days it becomes kind of popular again because you put a lot of different things. You cook it, you can prepare in a short time, and you can use any ingredients.
Right.
It becomes very popular these days in Seoul.
And vegetables are in. I think we
Yes,
all
yes.
know now that vegetables are so important. And again, for those who aren't sure about using the tripe, why don't we choose chicken, or why don't
sure.
we just have only ground beef?
Definitely.
So we can improvise with
Sure.
Korean cooking like we improvise, I think, with Western
That's
cooking
right.
quite a
yes, yes. Have some more.
bit. Yes. Yes, emptying out the refrigerator,
That's right.
as we call it. Every country has regional cuisine. As you're
Yeah,
mentioning, this is
yeah.
regional. My country, the United States, does, certainly in Europe as well.
Right.
And
And
that's
even in Korea, you probably heard the bibimbap from Jeonju,
Right.
naengmyeon cold noodle dishes from Pyongyang. So these specialty from different regions are very interesting. You know, just you get to enjoy when you are here.
And I suppose you can mix and match a little too.
definitely,
Mix and
sure.
match the regions to keep the peace.
That's right.
Lovely.
That's right.
네. 밥하고 같이 먹어도 되고 술안주로 그냥 하셔도 되죠.
So this can be, you know, you can enjoy this dish with your bowl of rice, or it can also accompany alcoholic beverage. You know, Koreans do like alcoholic beverage with food, and this would be a perfect dish for that occasion too.
Okay. And I think very nice with wine. We
Oh
enjoy
yes,
our wine.
of course, definitely. So today we have shown you a dish called 두루치기, a delicious and sumptuous hot pot from the southern Jeolla province. I hope you will get a chance to learn more about a different regional cuisine during your stay in Korea. I'd like to thank Mrs. Han and Sarah for coming today, and I thank all of the viewers for watching More Than Kimchi. 안녕히 계세요.